Hello everyone, I'm back. So um, we can start. Maybe I'll find a way of sharing the link on other platforms so that those who are gonna do this on TikTok can actually have a chance. Okay, so I'll share this somewhere. I'll do that. And then maybe I'll wait a little bit for people to join us. I think the only downside is that people didn't know we're going to do it over here. We already said it was going to be on TikTok, right? So I think that'll be one of the things we have to deal with. Okay. All right. It's very simple. I'll start and then share the link later. All right. It's very simple. So, when we start talking about graduate admissions and then also looking for funding opportunities, sometimes they go hand in hand, right? It depends on the program, right? So for me today, I'm talking about looking for funded graduate studies opportunities in Canada and then the US, right? In terms of if you already have your undergrad and you are thinking of going to do a master's or a PhD, all right? And I'm going to be focusing on people from the STEM fields. I'll be inviting other people to join me sometime, and then we talk about other programs like economics, like business and all of that, right? But today the focus will be on a regular STEM program, like maybe chemistry, biology, engineering, any of those fields, all right? So typically to apply for a master's program, for people coming from our part of the world, right, it's more of how do I get funding? How do I get, money to be able to pay my tuition fees and take care of myself? I went through the same process where I had to look for funding and then, look for a way of supporting myself over here. All right. So it's one of the main things that happens. All right. Typically, the professors go for money to do a particular research in an area or maybe on a particular topic, right? And then when they do that, they are successful with the grant, then they have to look for potential people who can really do the work and fund them. Okay, that's what happens in Canada, US. It can be the prof, it can be a research center, it can be let's say the university. All right. So programs like mathematics, for example, if you go to a lot of the maths department, you would have to apply and then they rank all the applicants and they select, let's say, the top 20%. I'm just saying, just the top 20%, and then they give them the funding to come do their master's or their PhD, right? And if you go to fields like, let's say, engineering, I'm in mechanical engineering. In mechanical engineering, materials engineering, electrical engineering, all the engineering fields, you would have to find a prof before you even apply for admission. Okay. So I see people who go ahead and then they apply for admission and then they just get a response saying, oh, you have an admission or you don't have an admission. In let's say mechanical engineering, you're not going to get admission if you don't get a prof who will go in and approve your application that they're going to fund you. And that is because the research is expensive, right? It's not cheap. So before the prof admits a student, they have to make sure they have the money there to be able to support them. And then they have to also make sure that they have the right people to do the work because they also have to give accountability of the research that they are doing, right? So that's really how the whole thing starts. Now, assuming I submit a grant and I'm successful with my grant and I'm looking for people to do the work, how do I go about it? Typically, people send emails to the profs or almost every single day. There is a new email almost every single day, right? Where people are asking, oh, they just finished the undergrad and they are looking for a master's or a PhD opportunity. They want to find out if you have an open position in your lab. Now, what I'm trying to say is that before you look for admission in a program like engineering in Canada and US, you would have to find a way of getting a prof to approve your application. In this case, I'm talking about approve that you're going to join their lab. Without that, you can get admission and, nothing's going to happen. It's like you have money and you're going to go pay yourself or something, right? Even with that, in Canada, for engineering, a lot of the profs are going to be asking, the admission requirement is that you have to have a professor who has agreed to supervise you before you apply for admission. So even if you have funding, it means that you still have to have somebody who has agreed to fund you, right? That's one of those things. So what I advise people is that you have to get the prof to approve you before you apply for the admission, because if the prof approves you and you get admission, it means that he's going to fund you, okay? Now, that's not the same for all the fields. If you are in political science, it's different. If you are in, the social sciences and all of that is different. But then if you are in, let's say, chemistry, biology, you are in physics, you are in engineering, those STEM fields, you would have to find a prof who is going to fund your research before you apply to, I would say majority of the schools in the US and Canada, right? Now, before you find the prof, you have to send an email to the prof. The first question is, where do I even find the prof? Okay, so if you go on every university website, let's say I'm from mechanical engineering department, I go to the mechanical engineering department, I can see the faculty list, all right? Those are the profs in the specific department, and they are doing specific research. There are no two profs that are doing the same thing, typically. And I remember that I received an email a couple of times ago from people, some students, from our part of the world, where they copied about 5 different profs in the same email, right? Okay, and that's a no-no. Okay, you have to find a way of getting the attention of that prof to really, look at your profile. Typically, they're going to call you for an interview, and then once they are satisfied with, some of them even go ahead and give you assignments to do before they make a decision on who to select as part of their team. The good thing is that once you are selected, you know that they're going to give you money to pay your tuition fees, to take care of yourself, and then do all those kind of things, okay? Now, if you are sending an email to the prof, it's very simple. It's a matter of you inquiring about whether you have an open position or not. But remember, these people are very, very busy, okay? Very, very busy. So you have to go straight to the point. You have to attach your CV and your transcript, all right? So when I get an email from people and it's about, I'm looking for an opportunity, do you have an open position? They don't attach their CV, they don't attach their transcript. I'm not going to send you an email back and say, oh, can you add your CV or transcript? No, because we have other options. There are people sending emails from India, from China, from Iran, from Bangladesh and all other parts of the world. So you don't have the opportunity to why don't you attach your CV or your transcript? That's really the whole thing, because I have options that I have to look at and then make a selection, all right? So that's really where this whole CV and transcript comes in. And it doesn't have to be a formal transcript, it can be an informal one, whatever it is, all right? But before you contact the prof, make sure that you have your CV, you have your transcript, okay? And then I tell people that, look, your transcript is logged in. You already, you graduated. If you have a first class, you have a first class. If you have a strong second class upper, you have a strong second class upper, all right? And if you're going to contact the prof, your transcript is already logged in. You can't change anything about it. But you can change something about the CV, okay? And that's where a lot of the work has to go in before you even prepare to contact profs, all right? Again, I'm going back to how I started. If you are in the STEM field, chemistry, biology, physics, engineering and all of that, if you want to go do your master's in Canada, the US, majority of the schools, I would say 90%, you have to find a professor who is willing to fund you before you apply for admission. You can apply for admission, the school will give you an admission, and you will still not be able to go to school if you don't have the money, all right? Unless you have the money, that's fine. In that case, you don't have to worry about anything, all right? But if you don't have the money, then you have to find a way of getting a prof to approve you before you apply. And that means that once you get admission, you are funded. Okay. So in contacting the prof, you realize that you have to add transcript and your CV to the email that you send to the prof. Okay. And then one of the main things is that your CV, you have to do a lot of work on the CV. Why? Your transcript is already logged in. You can't change your first class or your second class upper. Whatever it is, you can't change it. But the CV is where you kind of align yourself to the research that the prof is doing. In that case, you become what? A good candidate for the prof. And I'll give you an example. I have somebody who sends me an email and then says that, oh, I'm very interested in your research, and I wanted to find out if you have an open position. I'm interested in the research area of aircraft landing gears. All right. As soon as I see something like that, I'm not even going to continue reading the email, because it means that this person has not seen my research profile. They've not read about me online. Okay. And that is what we use to kind of filter some of the applicants, because you have somebody who has not even seen what you are doing. If you check my profile, I've never stated anywhere that I'm doing research on aircraft landing gears. So why are you sending me an email inquiring about a research position on aircraft landing gears? Now, what I'm trying to say is that before you send the email to the prof, make sure you have looked at their profile. Make sure that you are interested in the research that they are doing. And that is when you can send the email with your transcript and your CV. That's one. Two, the CV would have to be aligned to the area of the prof. So if somebody is in biology and then they send me an email that they are looking for an opportunity in my lab, then I tell them that there is nothing, because you're not even from my field. All right. And that's one of the main things why people go for grants to do specific research in their area. And they are looking for people with the prerequisite background to be able to do the research. So if you don't align your CV to the prof, it means that you are not a good candidate or a good match. Your first class means nothing to me. All right. Your first class means nothing. It's a matter of, is this person the right candidate to do the work? Okay. And I can only make that decision from the transcript and the CV that the person sends. Okay. And so I've made a lot of videos on how to create academic CVs and how to, tailor the CV to the research that the prof is doing. If you are not tailoring the CV to the research that the prof is doing, that will be a problem, because in that case, you are going to go ahead and send a CV that does not sell you as the right candidate. And I've seen a lot of that, for students from Nigeria, from Ghana, from, other parts of Africa. I think so far, I'll say the Iranians do very well, because all the CVs I see coming in from Iran, from, China, is well structured, it's actually tailored, and, you don't have some of these issues. But some of our people have not done the research, or maybe nobody has informed them about some of these things. So some of them even send the email without adding a transcript or a CV. All right. And that's one of those things. Again, you need to add your transcript. You need to add your CV. The CV, you have to really work on it. You have to tailor the CV to what the prof is doing. If you don't do that, you don't get any response from the prof. 90% of them are going to say, I don't have enough funding. It's not anything, because they just don't see you as the right candidate for doing the work. Remember, if I go for the grant, I have to find suitable people who can do the work. And if I don't find good people, I'm going to be in trouble. That's one of the main things, because then my research is going to get stuck, right? Imagine a PhD student. I'm picking a PhD student. The PhD student is going to stay with me for a minimum of 4 years. So if the person is not the right candidate, I'm stuck with this person. So I have to really go through a whole bunch of screening to be able to get the right candidate. I'm going to look at your CV. I'll look at your transcript. If I see a good match and you have the prerequisite skills, then I call you for an interview. All right. So there's an interview part as well. Again, please, this is not the same for all the fields. No, this is for the STEM fields, those in biology, physics, chemistry, those in engineering. That's really the whole idea, right? But if you are in political science, economics, if you are in social sciences, or if you are going to those areas, then that's a different ball game. You don't have to do that, okay? I'm talking about those in the STEM fields for today. So please make sure that before you contact the prof, you have looked at their profile, you know the kind of research that they are doing, you are interested in the research they are doing, and you have the background to do that research. Okay, that's when you send the transcript and you send the CV and asking whether they have an open position. All right. And if they ask you that, maybe do you have any journal publications? One of the areas that I see people coming from, let's say Ghana, right? We do the internship, all right, attachment internship. where people go to spend some time with industry and all of that. We work on design projects. And I'm talking about those in engineering, for example. You work on a capstone and all of that. These are all areas that you can actually expand for the prof to know that you have the prerequisite background to do the research. You are not coming here to teach. You are coming to do the research and do your master's or your PhD as well. And so, do I want somebody who doesn't have the background? No, I want somebody who can really start off as soon as you get here, or can actually do very well in their coursework and then, move, right? Difference between the US and Canada. If you are coming to do a master's program or a PhD program in Canada, it's a little bit different from the US. In Canada, if you get here today, you start both the coursework and then the research, all right? For a PhD program in the US, you have to do your coursework for like maybe 2 years before you start the actual project. So that's the slight difference, okay? So the Canadian profs are a little bit strict on who they hire, because as soon as you come, you are starting the research, you are starting the project and all of that. So if I don't get the right candidate, then I'm in trouble, okay? So please, first things first, you can't change your transcript. It's logged in, but you can change your CV. And that is where you have to do a lot of work in editing the CV, a lot of work to making sure that the CV is aligned with the research that the prof you are going to contact is actually doing. Two profs in the same department never do the same research. And that means that the same CV you send to Professor A, you cannot send that to Professor B. And that is because the research are different. The skill set might be a little bit different as well. And there is a way you would have to kind of tailor the CV to suit those two profs. All right. So a lot of the people who apply, they say, oh, we never got any response from the profs. Nobody responds. Or they said, oh, we don't have responded. Or they said, oh, we don't have funding. Nothing's going on and all of that. It's because, well, they looked at your transcript, they looked at the CV, and they said, this is not a good match. All right. Sometimes you might have a very awesome CV, a very awesome transcript, just that maybe the prof doesn't have funding at that particular time. In that case, you can get back to them, after a couple of months to see if they have any open position and all of that. Okay, so that is really the simplest overview of this whole thing, where you are in the STEM field. You have, let's say, a first class or a strong second class upper. You are trying to find a way to get your master's or your PhD. Then you have to find a prof first, and the prof will call you for an interview. And when they like you, they select you, they ask you to go ahead and put in an application. All right. Once the application is done, they go in and they accept the application. That's when you get your offer letter to go for your visa and then come and all of that. And with that, that they're going to give you money to pay your tuition fees, money to take care of yourself, whilst you also do what? The research in the lab. So that's really the main thing from the master side, and then also from the PhD side. Now, let's look at the CV. I've told you already, you can't change your transcript, but you can do something about the CV, all right? And the CV, we have the academic CV, and then we have the regular, job thing where you have a short resume, right? So in that case, you don't want to bore people with your 4 pages or 3 pages or anything, all right? But if you are attaching a CV for a prof to look at the prerequisite skills, I do review some of the people on my platform, on the WhatsApp platform, and then I realize that the main mistake people make is that they undersell themselves, okay? So, they have their usual heading where they talk about the prerequisite skills that they built up over the years, and then they talk about their work experience, and then they talk about, their teaching experience and all of these kind of things, especially those who are teaching assistants and all, right? Remind you, you're not coming here to teach. It's part of the work that you do, but as the prof, I really don't care about your teaching, right? The prof doesn't care about your teaching. What they are looking at is what? Can this person do the research? Do they have the background to do the research? If I say yes to this person has, that skill set to start and do something wonderful. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so you being the person who is applying has to make sure that you have a tailored CV to do that. Okay, and I'll send some of the videos around where I talk in detail about how to create your academic CV, how to tailor the CV to suit the research that the prof is doing, and that is very, very important. Okay, very, very important. This day and age, I see people sending CVs, and then they have what? Their date of birth on the CV, they have their nationality on the CV. I'm like, you're kidding, right? In this day and age, why will you be writing a CV with your date of birth and then your nationality and then your religion and all these kind of things? No. All right. I just want to know what is the prerequisite skills that you've built up. I'll give you an example. Let's say I did material science or materials engineering. All right. The CV should be such that anybody who is from materials engineering can actually what? Recognize a lot of the things on the CV if they are coming from the field. Now, remember, I'm talking about academic CV, okay? Not your regular resume, all right? You're going to go look for an industrial job or something with it, all right? So if you are from materials engineering, it means that your CV should speak the terms of the field, all right? Everybody says, oh, I'm a team player. Of course, everybody is a team player. So you are not distinguishing yourself from all the other people, all right? Somebody will write a CV and then you cannot differentiate between that CV and let's say somebody from material science and engineering writes a CV. You look at some of the CVs and then you compare to somebody who sent you a CV from computer science or computer engineering and you realize that there is no difference between the two CVs because they are not distinguishing themselves from each other. They are using general terms, you know. I'm a team player, and then I'm a fast learner, blah, 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 all these kind of things. It means nothing. Everybody is a team player. Everybody is a fast learner. It's a matter of distinguishing yourself and then making sure that the research that the prof is doing resonates with your CV. All right. So if I open your CV, as I said before, somebody sends me the CV and then they ask for whether I have an open position on research on aircraft landing gears. And I'm like, you looked at my profile. I don't do any research on aircraft landing gears. So why are you even asking, right? And then you go to the CV, you realize that it's just a general CV. There's nothing special about whatever they put in there, distinguishing themselves from other people. That's one. Two, experiences. When on my platform, people say that, oh, I don't have enough research experience. And I'm like, anybody who's coming from, I know Ghana, Nigeria, you know, these parts of the world, they do. Okay. When we talk about research, doesn't mean that you are in lab coat and then you are sitting at a corner and then trying to do something with tweezers and then with what? Funnels and glasses and all of that. No. All right. Beakers and all. No. Right. In this case, your internship or your externships that you did, they are a form of research. If you can actually talk about the projects that you did. All right. If you did your the capstone project or the fourth year projects that we do in engineering in the STEM fields, these are all research areas. Okay. It's a matter of knowing the topic you did, the kind of activities that you did in those projects. And if you're able to list them, that becomes your experience in terms of the research skill. Okay. So nobody can actually say, oh, I don't have a research experience when they've gone through an engineering program from KNUST or University of Ghana or from University of Lagos or any of these places, right? Because the research that you did is a matter of the capstone projects that you did, the design projects that you did, the kind of interviews you did with people for those who do qualitative research, all right, and quantitative research. So you have the prerequisite skills. It's a matter of being able to bring them out from your experiences, okay, and being able to put those things in writing on the CV, which aligns well with what the prof is doing. Okay. Again, if you don't have a first class or a strong second class upper, all right, I will advise that maybe it's if you're looking for a master's program, that might be a long call or a long shot, because for example at York University, the minimum GPA for admission, not even for looking for funding, is a B+, which is a second class upper. So it means that if you have a second class lower, you are not even going to qualify to get admission, not to talk about getting the funding. All right. So that's where this whole thing becomes a little bit challenging for if you have a second class, if you have a lower or something like that. But if you have a first class or let's say a strong second class upper or even a second class upper and you have very good CV, you stand a chance of getting called for the interview. And if you prepare very well, you stand a chance of getting this offer, for this whole master's PhD thing. All right. So that is one of those things. On the CV, remember, you are demonstrating your research experience that aligns with what the professor is doing. So if you know that the experiences that you've built up does not align with what the prof is doing, then one thing is that you take them out, or maybe you put them somewhere on the CV. You just bring those ones that will make you a good candidate or the good match for that particular prof. All right, that's really the whole idea. And that's one of the things that I see missing in a lot of the CVs that come around. You have to tailor it to the prof's research. You have to show what you did in your internships and then in your externships and then also in your capstone, right? Or your project work, those kind of things. And they can be a very good sell for you, you know. I remember one time I interviewed one student, and then the main thing was that they did, I think they did their internship at one of those companies in Ghana, ECG or something, right? And then the main issue was that he wrote, he was part of a team that worked on this project, and then he was doing bookkeeping, and then he was also, so it's more of like he was doing bookkeeping, that's all. And there's somebody who is from mechanical engineering. So if you're a mechanical engineer, you went to do internship and then you were doing bookkeeping, that's a little bit of a problem, right? But whatever they were doing over there, I know that you saw it, and I know that maybe you were part of the team that worked on the thing. And that means that you should be able to bring out the skill set that you built over there, which will be a good match for what the prof is doing. All right. And that is very important. It's something that I always advise people to do. CV is your only option. You have to add your transcript, but you are logged in with the transcript. There's nothing you can change about the transcript. But for the CV, you can change something because you can really make it a direct match for the prof's work. And that is it. If you really have that direct match, they're going to call you for an interview. And if you really talk well, that's it. You have the offer. You don't have to worry about admission, or you don't have to worry about your funding and all of that. Okay. Please, if you have questions, you can type them. I will be more than happy to answer them. And I have some more videos on the how to write the CV, on how to improve the quality of the CV, how to align the CV to what the prof is doing. And I'll be bringing them up. Today we were supposed to be joined by Professor Isa Ibrahim, but something came up, so he wasn't able to join us today. He's hoping to join us next week Saturday. So, and we also have some challenges with our TikTok. That's why we decided to come on Facebook and talk about this. All right, but it's very simple. If you have a first class, if you have a strong second class upper, there is no way you should be paying for graduate school. No, there's lots of money, lots of funding, lots of scholarships that you can apply to that can help you to come do your master's or a PhD. It's a matter of you finding the right prof who has the funding, and you can go through the process of interviewing with them and all of that. And if you are successful, that's it. You get the opportunity to come join them. Okay. So that is really a short thing that I wanted to share with us. I'll bring up some videos. I'll bring up the link. I'll have an interview with a couple of profs on this, and people can come ask them their questions in terms of how do they hire people, what do they look out for, and all of that, right? And that is very important that we do it. Now, if you are applying to schools or programs like economics, I know it's different. Sometimes mathematics, right? In economics, what happens is that if you're looking for a master's or a PhD, there's a requirement, your CV, your research statement, and then your transcript. Sometimes they ask you for a couple of other things. But it's very simple. For those fields, you do not have to get a prof to approve your application before you apply for admission. No. For those ones, you apply, and then they rank all the applicants, and then based on maybe the top 20%, top 15%, they pick all the students and then they give them funding. That's really done in economics, is done in political science, is done in mathematics, all right? But for those from physics, chemistry, biology, engineering, any of those engineering fields, you have to go through the process of getting a prof to accept your application, and then also doing the interviews and all of that before you even apply for admission. Else you can apply for admission, that's for sure. But then your chances of getting the funding, it's like, zero. Even some of the schools are not going to allow you to apply for admission if you don't have a prof who has already approved you for their research. Okay, that's really the whole idea. Okay, so that's just a short intro to this whole thing. I have a lot of these videos I'll be sharing with those who are interested. I have a platform that we've been doing this since 2020. Sometimes we meet on Zoom and then we talk about how to improve the CV. Sometimes people send me their CVs and then they tell me where they want to go, and then we try to help them edit. We don't charge anybody anything for any there's no charges or anything like that. If I get the chance and I have the time, I'll go through it and then we chat about it. And if you are if you do it very well, why not? You get it, and then that's it. Okay. And you can also send me questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them. I'll come on live next week Saturday with Professor Isa Ibrahim, and I'm hoping to get one other prof as well, so that they also share their experiences with us in terms of how they hire students, and then we can all start work on it. But again, for those in the STEM field, remember, you can't do anything about the transcript, but you can do something about the CV. All right. So you always want to do a very good job on tailoring the CV to suit the research that the prof is doing. In that case, you don't have to worry about, being a direct candidate for the job or not. It's just like you going to look for a job. All right. If you don't tailor the CV to the job advertisement, nobody's going to call you for an interview. And the same thing with these programs. If you are coming from the engineering background, or you are coming from, the STEM, like physics, chemistry, biology, and all of that, you have to find a prof who aligns well with what you want to do. You have to write a CV that aligns with what the prof is doing. You have to send them an email with your transcript and your CV asking if they have an open position for a master's or a PhD program. All right. They go look at the CV, they look at the transcript. If you're a good candidate, they're going to call you for an interview if they have funding. All right. And some of them, they don't have funding, they're going to send you an email that, hey, we don't have funding. All right. So that's it. Okay. So if you have questions, please drop your questions on the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And we are hoping to connect to some other platforms, hopefully next week Saturday. All right. Thanks everyone. And I'll be happy to answer your question. Thank you.